Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-host,
Roxx.
Friends, it's a new year. We've had some great new releases this past year in 2022. It's a new year here in 2023. And as a matter of fact, the exact date is the 21st of January, 2023. And we know we have some more new releases coming and some new discoveries. And friends, as of late, the metal band Weapons of God, they've been crushing it. So today we have the full band Weapons of God. We have Steve McGowan, vocals and guitars. Welcome, Steve. Leon Black, vocals and guitars. Welcome, Leon. We have Ed Girard on bass. Welcome, Mr. Ed. And we have on drums, Jay Hurt. Welcome, Jay. So, woohoo! Yeah, Weapons of God, the full band. We're happy. We're ecstatic. And guys, as of late, you've been crushing it. Recently, you've had I've noticed on HM Online, on their vodcast, Heaven's Metal, you guys have been featured on that. So congratulations. I trust that went well.
Yes, it did. It was a very cool experience.
Good deal.
Grew up on that magazine way back in the day. So
That's right. Yes, I remember. Yeah, back I'm back when I had hair, when I had a mullet. Y'all remember the mullets? I remember flipping through HM magazine, Heaven's Metal, before it was even HM. So another recent accomplishment, guys. Tell me about in late 2022 in October on Roxx Productions, Roxx Records. We Love Hating Evil. It was the All Hallows Eve Halloween compilation. Ghost was included on that. Guys, tell me about how Ghost was included on that compilation.
Bill Roxx chose it.
That's right. And that's an honor, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an honor to be included with such amazing bands on that CD. It's really an honor. It was on our Bride and
Blood
Good.
Good, Vengeance. I'm thinking of bands that I grew up on listening to back in the day. So very cool to me to be on a compilation with some of the influences, I guess, and bands that I listened to pretty regularly when I was at a very young age. So
That's right, Leon. And I listen to those same bands. And yes, great company. And Ghost is, by the way, it's a worthy song. I dig that song. I love its ethereal quality to that song, appropriately a haunting quality. So very cool, that song. And congratulations on being included on that. And let's talk about Nights of No Tomorrow from The War Within Us. That song has been kicking Tookus. If not the #1 spot, because it's been at #1 for quite a bit, but it's been at least in the top 3 spot for quite a while on the Rock for Him podcast, the top 15 countdown. Guys, tell us about that. Tell us about the support there you've been getting. It's like me.
it's very cool to have that out there. That's one of the songs that we actually wrote together kind of as a band. This guy here kind of was the inspiration for some of the main riffs, come from Ed, and we sort of, it's one of the few that we literally put together at rehearsal, had some parts, Steve came up with some parts and we kind of had arrangement ideas and it just kind of flowed. And the next time we got together, Steve had lyrics for it, pieced everything in, and it's a little different than some of our other stuff, but we do kind of like to get a little bit of variety feel in there. But it's a cool song. It's one of my top songs of ours. I really enjoy that song. So thank you.
Yes.
And it's cool to see other people digging it. So
that's right, and they have been. And yes, that's you guys have some great songs. That's a standout cut, though. Now, to me, it's interesting. And Leon, we were talking about, I think most of us probably cut our teeth on a lot of the same bands. Like you were talking Vengeance Rising and bands like that from back in the day. Nowadays people, when they vote and it's all cool, but it's interesting how the times change. when people vote, now you can sit at your keyboard and type something in or text something in. Do you remember the old days, the days of yore, I'll call it? Remember the Dial MTV countdown?
Yeah.
When you had to call and phone it in, you know, and back then it'd be like, hey, you know, I want to vote for Weapons of God, Knights of No Tomorrow. So, friends, I think what we might do is Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, you can call my co-host Rex Metzer at 555-867-5309. Vote for Knights of No Tomorrow. So congratulations, guys, because I've noted, though, over at the Rock for Him podcast, and I believe, isn't that Jeremy Brown? Is that Jeremy Brown's podcast?
Yes.
Okay. And there's two Jeremy Browns, friends. There's Torrential Rift, Jeremy Brown, and over at the Rock for Him podcast. But Knights of No Tomorrow has been kicking some tail over there, so congratulations. Now, Steve, I noticed also, I for Christmas I've got Les Carlson's solo album, He's Coming. But I noticed on the Jesus Freak Show video, you and Rochelle, you guys were featured, had a cameo on there.
Yeah, that was quite interesting how that happened. Actually, Rochelle, she was talking to Joyce, and she started telling Rochelle that they're planning on making a video for the Jesus Freak Show, and they want to include all the people there that was at the Immortal Fest. And we had our band shirts on. We were representing, you know, so pretty much that's how that fell in place. Just representing the band in the video, and she just told us to do your thing, be crazy, have fun with us. So that we did. I don't know if you noticed too, but at the end of the video, we're at the Ark Church there, Ron Campbell's church, and we're in that video too, where we're all holding up the signs there. So at the end, but it was a good time, fun time.
And it was cool. And Ron, Pastor Ron, if you ever watch this, hello, it's good to see you again. And, you know, thank the world of Pastor Ron. Rex and I have had the pleasure of meeting him on some previous interviews from a different vodcast that we used to do. Are you guys going to be making your way to Immortal Fest this year to kind of be there and hang?
Yeah, I plan on going. I don't know what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I need to go. I should have went last year. They tried to get me to, and I hemmed and hawed and ended up not going, but I should have went. There were some bands there that, again, bands that, you know, I grew up on, but didn't get a chance to see live back in the day. And I didn't, and I kind of regret it a little bit, but looking forward to hopefully going to this next one.
So you guys are going to go to the one in September or the one in July or both? I'm just curious.
I plan on going the one in July to see the Theocracy.
Okay.
I've been waiting for a long time to see Theocracy, and I'm not missing it. For the one in September, plan on going that Saturday evening to go and support Fear Not. So those guys there, you know, check them out and be there for them. Great bunch of guys, great bunch of guys and men of God. So great band, Fear Not. Looking forward to that.
Well, I'll be at the one in September, Steve. So I'll definitely look forward to meeting you in person then.
Right on, right on.
Cool.
So that's kind of what's weird, you know, with me is, you know, Steve, I've had the pleasure of meeting you in Harrison, Arkansas, and I was going to see Fear Not, and, you know, Rex and I have been friends now for, forgive me, Rex, if my timeline's off a little bit, but probably about 4 years.
Yes.
Rex and I have been friends for 4 years, but we've actually never met in person. But Steve, I've had the pleasure of meeting you, and I got to meet Dave Cruz, you know, from Covenant Metal Show, and hey, Dave, you know, hey, brother. Got to meet some other friends that we all know mutually, but I have yet to meet Rex.
Turn it on! Turn it up just a little bit louder. Almost nothing greater than His glory and His power. Turn it on! Turn it up just a little bit louder. Almost nothing greater than His glory and His power.
So let me set the stage here. Friends, Rock in the River in Harrison, Arkansas. It's another festival. And Steve, when did Weapons of God play there? Was it the year prior that you all played?
Yes.
21?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and y'all headlined that year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we were
We
there.
played last.
We played last.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, Chaotic Resemblance was there that year.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Leon, did you say something? I didn't mean to.
No, I just said we played last. If you call that headlining, that's fine.
Okay. Was that the same year that Chaotic Resemblance played?
Chaotic was supposed to play, but they had to bow out. I think there was, if I remember, there was some family issues, maybe. I can't
Okay.
quite remember. Something happened.
So last year was my first year to go. I just family life and job and everything. It's hard for me sometimes to get out, and I live vicariously through Rex at Immortal Fest. And I keep forgetting there's actually 2 now. And I think it's great that it's growing and superb bands on both lists there. But, you know, Steve, I had the privilege to meet you and Rochelle there. And friends, if I can set the stage here, I'm standing by this gentleman, and he's got long hair, and I'm there to see Fear Not, because Fear Not's a band. Leon, like we were talking, I've been listening to Fear Not since '93, and they were the only band that I knew there. But I'm listening and watching these other bands, and I'm like, well, here's a great band, and that band was Slaves Wage, and you know, there's some other bands that I'm encountering. Stained Red is a band, you know, that I believe's played there. And so I'm talking to this gentleman beside me, and we're making small talk. And I think I asked, you know, are you in a band? And he said, you know, yes, I am. And I said, oh, what's the name of your band? And he said, we're called Weapons of God. And I said, okay. And I said, well, do y'all have any music or anything that I could check out, you know? And I meant like online. And he said, yeah, we do. He said, and he turned to Rochelle and he said, you know, can you, well, I've got to say that, you know, Steve, I mean, hey, she takes care of you guys. I know that. So Rochelle, very kindly, she brought me these 2 CDs right here, Weapons of God and The War Within Us, 2 great CDs. And when you guys handed me these CDs, I look, and there on the spine is Roxx Productions. And I'm like, whoa, you guys aren't playing around, you know? And so I was like, wow. So guys, here's where I'm going with this. This is great metal. And I'm one of these people that, I mean, I was an avid fan, Leon, all the bands that you mentioned in the past, I listened to, but when grunge hit, it killed all of the old bands that I loved. And I kind of checked out of modern music in the mid 90s. And I just kind of started reverting to the back catalog of metal bands that I loved. And when it's new bands made of classic members, or, you know, members that are in classic bands that have gone on to do solo albums, or new bands that are carrying the torch of great metal, I'm kind of slow to latch on. I'm slow to dive in, and I'm kind of ignorant and just finding out. So guys, it was a privilege and a pleasure, Steve, to meet you and Rochelle. And let's talk about these 2 great albums of metal, 2019 self-titled and 2021's The War Within Us, both on Roxx Productions. Guys, tell me each, if you don't mind. We'll go around the horn. Steve, we'll start with you, and then Leon, and then Jay, and then Ed. Who were some of your musical influences growing up?
My biggest influence is Kiss. Big Kiss fan. Then later, you know, I've grown to like a lot of European power metal bands like Evergrey and Hammerfall. I don't know. I like a variety of everything. I mean, if you really listen to the CDs, you can hear there's such a different variety from each song. I feel one song will sound like Maiden, or the next song will sound like Striper, or I don't know, but there's just so many influences I could just go on about, and those influences impact me sometimes with my way of writing songs. So, you know, guitar players, Eddie Van Halen, Dimebag Darrell, Randy Rhoads. I didn't have growing up, I missed out on a lot of the Christian rock metal bands. The only bands I knew growing up was Striper and Petra. And I was not really into Petra. Striper was all I knew. And unfortunately, I missed out on that whole Christian rock metal era because I wasn't introduced to a lot of these bands. Now I'm playing catch up. I'm having to go back and, oh my gosh, listening to Bloodgood and Holy Soldier and Rob Rock and Angelica and Baron Cross. It's like, playing all this catch-up game. So, those are my influences growing up.
Very cool. So quick question on a side note, Steve. Kiss, what is your take on Tommy and Eric in the makeup?
I'm okay with Eric Singer in the makeup, only for the simple fact that he was there with them during the non-makeup era. I'm good with it. I have a problem with Tommy Thayer, only for the simple fact in an interview that Kiss had when their Sonic Boom album came out, he was a little cocky in an interview and made the comment that I am the spaceman. And it just really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not the spaceman. So, it is what it is. It's always been Paul and Jane's band, and when you buy the copyrights to the trademark, the makeup, I guess you can do whatever you want. So, but I still support them. But
sure, I just wish that they were given their own characters. That's the only issue that I have. And I remember, because you're talking to an old Kiss fan too. I remember when it was Space Ace.
Yeah.
Not the Spaceman. It was Space Ace. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk more about Weapons of God. Leon Black on guitar and vocals. Who were some of your influences, brother?
Well, probably some of my earliest, I guess, sort of influences. It's an interesting question to me. Sometimes I think of, okay, what influenced me to want to play guitar, play music, and then what are the influences that influence me in what I write? When I was very young, I have an older brother that's 6 years older than me. He was just getting into early Van Halen, Judas Priest. He was a big Thin Lizzy fan. So I would hear that stuff around the house without really having any idea about metal per se. The metal and stuff that I was interested in back then. I was never really a big Kiss fan. I was a fan of the show, the makeup, the theatrics of it, but the music I didn't really care for too much. I listened to a lot of Black Sabbath, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, and Led Zeppelin was probably a big influence on me. Jimmy Page, watching The Song Remains the Same hundreds of times as a kid, made me want to play guitar. But I was also raised in a home where we went to church. I was raised in a old-fashioned Pentecostal church. So in my dad's view, there was basically gospel and bluegrass, and that was the two kinds of music that there were. He was not a big musical fan, I guess. So when I got into some of those secular bands, he wasn't real hip to me bringing that stuff into the house. My brother got away with it, but we were, he and I weren't on the same age level, so there was a little bit of difference there, maturity-wise. So when I heard, it was probably, like Steve said, Striper, Yellow Black Attack EP, when that first came out, that caught my attention because I'm like, Dad can't say anything about this because these guys are Christians, you know, they're serving the same God he's serving, so it should be okay. Well, he still didn't really care for it. But my mom would read a lot, loved to go to bookstores, used to spend a lot of time at Korean Christian bookstores back in the day. And when I realized that they had a music section, I just sucked up everything I could get my hands on. I was, you know, the Bloodgood's first record, Barren Cross's first record, Tempest back in the day, anything I could get that had Striper on it, White Cross in the early days, Old Saint, those kinds of things. And the more, I think the heavier music that I started to get into, the more I like the heavy stuff. So as I progressed, I guess I'm really into some really, you know, deathcore and slamcore, death metal stuff. I really like really aggressive music. So that kind of influences me in the way I write, although I don't necessarily write like that, but I like that heavy riff style of stuff. So yeah, I'd say in some way or another, probably everything I listen to influences me, whether I realize it or not. But for me, you know, I know you said Vengeance Rising earlier, so it always rubs me wrong when I hear Vengeance Rising because they were Vengeance first.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
Back in the HM days when I mail ordered that demo cassette that Vengeance produced out of the back of that magazine, you know what I mean? That was them, early Zayo. Just the heavier I could get into, the more and more I liked it. So I think all of it, like I said, in some way or another influences you know, the way I write. But yeah, I mean, I listen to a pretty wide variety of music personally, but I always come back to the stuff that most people want me to turn off. So,
Well, yeah,
especially my parents.
when I bought that Vengeance tape in '88, that's what it was. There was no Rising underneath it. It was just Vengeance. But over the years, I accidentally say it now because it's been on everything since. But quick question: Sabbath, Ozzy or Dio years?
Ozzy for sure.
There you
Yeah, and still big Ozzy fan to this day. So you know, in particular, you know, when you know, I'm a Randy Rhoads fan, yeah, but when Zakk Wylde joined Ozzy on No Rest for the Wicked, that really got my attention. Zakk having that nice, big, heavy tone,
Oh, yeah.
it really got my attention more to where, you know, like you're saying, I kind of had to go back through the catalog and listen to the other stuff to become, you know, even more familiar with it. But definitely Ozzy and Sabbath as opposed to Dio. Not knocking Dio, but I was just never really a big Dio fan. So.
Ed, what about you? Who are some of your musical influences?
Were you talking to Jay or me?
Ed,
You, Mr. Ed.
Mr. Ed, gee, I have never heard that before. Well, like Steve, my Kiss was pretty much my band into the world of hard rock, and I was really influenced by that. I started on guitar when I was 15, but I was always drawn to the bass. I saw Gene Simmons hammering that axe bass of his. So the Call of the Wild made me a bass player, I guess. I like the old school British bands. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. Steve Harris is definitely my main influence. I got to give kudos to, you know, Geezer Butler, Ian Hill. Yes, it's not a metal band, but Chris Squire was a great bass player.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
I mean, he definitely deserves honorable mention. And let's not forget Mr. John Entwistle, Mr. Thunderfinger.
Yox.
Insane bass player. I mean, John Paul Jones. Yeah, good one, Leon. John Paul Jones from Zeppelin. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good bass players out there, and some of them don't get the credit they deserve. Some I think are very underrated, and I don't think that's right. I mean, just because they're not playing a million notes per second doesn't mean they're not, doing their job. First and foremost, holding down a good solid foundation with this guy. So yeah, I'm still in search of the elusive killer tone on the, all the factors that come into it, the bass, the amp, and all that stuff. I'm just having a great time, just having a lot of fun. I really, really am thankful for my brothers here and my sis over there, because I just feel like we're doing some really good things, and I'm just really excited about the future.
Let me ask you guys a quick question here, and off to the side again. But so again, going back to Kiss. Now Kiss, and they were the first band that attracted me to music. And this is back in the 70s when I had their 8-track tapes. They were a very accessible band, right? A little more simplistic in nature. And growing up, I mean, all my musician friends would kind of bag on me for liking Kiss because their stuff was so simplistic. But the funny thing is the more I talk to musicians, accomplished musicians, and you guys are certainly accomplished, I can say that because I've listened to these and they're quite good. And so musicians, a lot of them cite Kiss in the same breath as Zeppelin or Sabbath or other bands. And what are your thoughts on that? I mean, can a band be simplistic and still be considered a good band?
Sure they can.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kiss, I think Kiss, again, I'm not a huge Kiss fan, but they had it figured out, and that you make it accessible, which is what makes people want to listen to it. You got those hooks that get in you where you can't get it out of your head. The songs, you find yourself singing songs and you're going, who is that? Who is that? So they did that very well. Like I said, for me, I think part of it was to me, the music didn't fit the look. I was starting to get into some heavier stuff, and I wanted something grindy. If a guy looking like a demon's going to sing, I want to hear him sound like a demon.
Wow. I don't know if you guys ever heard the band Lordi. Lordi's from out there in Sweden. If you look at the band Lordi, they look like these monsters, but when you hear the music, it's like the music don't even fit that image. They just sound like a hard rock band, But it works. It's about the imagery, So
Sure.
But yeah, they're definitely up there, I think, with some of the greats, like that you mentioned, and they're worthy of that spot for everything they've accomplished. Might be one of the greatest bands of all time. You could easily argue that. So,
Sure.
Not my personal favorite, but I ain't taking nothing away from what they've accomplished, and their influence on hard rock and metal is very apparent. So, especially with this guy.
Well, we have a couple simple songs. I mean, I think "Call Your Name" is pretty simple. Maybe "Glory to Power" probably a little simple. "Give 'Em Jesus." I would think that's, I don't know, pretty simple. Pretty simple. So
Simple works.
Yeah.
I mean, if the song works and it sounds good, right on.
and we could write a 3-minute song over here, then we'll just say, hey, let's write a 10-minute song right here. I think
Let's make up. Yeah.
like War Within, I think it's like an 8-minute long song, maybe. I don't know. It's just,
Well, Leon, I think you might have hit the nail on the head with me anyway when you said it's about the hook, and I kind of I tend to agree with that. And no matter how technical a band or how simplistic, I feel like if a band brings you joy, whether it's Rush, and I love Rush, or whether it's the Ramones, and I really dig the Ramones, and for different reasons, I get the same amount of joy from both bands. And so I'm not saying one's not more technically proficient, but they both bring me the same amount of joy, musically speaking.
a matter of taste, really, you know? I hate those discussions and arguments that say, well, this band's better than this band, because it's all personal things. You might like them better, but that don't mean that they're necessarily a better band.
Right.
You know, that's all personal taste, and respect people's opinions, you know, whatever that may be. So
You bet. You bet. So enough of me chasing rabbits. I'm sorry, guys. You're promoting thought. So, Jay, who are some of your influences, buddy?
So I grew up, one side of the family listened to classic country and the other side of the family listened to oldies. So I kind of grew up with that. And depending on who I was with in the family, and usually it was my mother, and the only thing she would listen to was oldies. And if you listened to anything else that wasn't the oldies, you were listening to the devil's music. If it wasn't Diana Ross and the Supremes, if it wasn't the Beach Boys, get it out of here. And so that's what I kind of grew up with. And it wasn't until I was 12, 13 years old that a friend of mine, the same friend that introduced me to drums, actually, I was over at his house one day, and he had just hundreds of, and I'm showing my age here, he had hundreds, literally, of albums, vinyls, you know, and 8-tracks and cassette tapes, you know, just massive amounts of all the stuff. And I remember I was just floored, and I'm like, man, what is it? You know, what is this? I mean, I was just dumbfounded. And he was like, well, dude, haven't you ever heard of Def Leppard? You know, and I think Def Leppard's Photograph was the first, you know, hard rock song, I guess you could say, that I ever heard in my life. You know, I only knew Waylon Jennings and Elvis Presley and stuff like that. And so, you know, he pops in a cassette tape, and I hear Photograph by Def Leppard. And I'm like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, you know, what is this, you know?
Well,
And
it's
I'm
funny
like,
you should mention that, Jay, not to interrupt, but yesterday was the 40th anniversary of that album.
oh, yes, you are correct. I had forgotten about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just shows you how old we are.
That's right.
This interview's over.
But yeah, you know, and then I'm like, holy cow, man, what, you know, what's a Def Leppard? You know, I don't know. I don't know squat about anything. He's like, dude, if you like this, check out some Kiss. Hey, check out some Motley Crue, you know. And he had it all, Scorpions, Judas Priest, you name it. And I was loving. I mean, I fell in love instantly. And I mean, he had everything. You name the band, he had it. And then it was Van Halen. The first time I heard Van Halen, I was like, holy smokes, who is this dude playing the guitar? Because I started off as a guitar player as a child. And so I heard Eddie Van Halen, and it was just kind of like he was, you know, he was a groundbreaker. You know, he kind of changed things, you know, when it came to guitar. Just I think a lot of other people would agree with me, not everybody, but you know, he changed the game, I guess you could say. Yeah. And I was just immediately I was just blown away immediately. So then I just dove deeper and deeper and deeper into the Van Halen realm. And I immediately said, I'm going to be this guy when I grow up. I mean, I fell in love with Eddie Van Halen. And I mean, back then he was my idol, and I was going to be him. And, you know, I loved Van Halen. They're probably my biggest influence. Like I said, not just because of Eddie, but I love the show that Diamond Dave put on. Not the greatest singer, but what a heck of a showman.
That's right.
I think a lot of people would agree. But I love Alex. You know, I loved the whole band. I loved everything they were about because it was like, you kind of, in my head, it was kind of like when you're a child walking into a candy store, you know, and everything was bright and shiny, you know, and new and poppy, you know. I'm taking some of Sammy Hagar's words out of context. He also said the same thing about the first time he heard Van Halen. But they were probably my biggest influence. But I loved Rush. Grew up listening to a lot of Rush. But I've still to this day, I can listen to I can listen to Jakey Lee's Badlands, which is another band that I freaking love. I can listen to them, and then I can turn around an hour later and go back to listening to the Temptations because I love them just as much as I love Jakey Lee's Badlands. And I'm a lover of all kinds of music, but obviously, you know, your hard rock, your heavy metal, that's what I hold dear to me, I guess. And it is kind of like Steve was saying, I grew up in church, and I never heard of any hard rock bands doing, Christian stuff. And then all of a sudden this Striper band, somebody introduced me to this band called Striper, and I'm like, holy cow, that's what I want to do, but it's so hard to find. Growing up, it's hard to find a group of guys that want to do, Christian hard rock, Christian metal. It's hard to find that. So you end up playing, Judas Priest in somebody's basement, for 4 hours a day or whatever. Even though, back here in the back of your mind somewhere, you're like, one of these days we're gonna find one of these Christian bands that knows how to rock.
He's still looking for him.
And I'm still looking. I'm still looking for him.
Well, as we all know too, all the big bucks and the big money come when you're in a Christian rock or Christian metal band, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
That's why you guys do it. It's for the money, right? Jay, what's your favorite Beach Boys song?
Say again, I'm sorry.
What's your favorite Beach Boys song?
Oh, my favorite Beach Boys song? Probably Kokomo.
Okay.
Only because when I was in high school, we put on a show, and me and 3 other guys did Kokomo for the show, for part of the show, and I guess that will always be my favorite song, just because that was probably the first time I felt like a star, because all the chicks in the crowd were like, "Oh my God, he's so hot!" I was like, "That's right."
Oh, goodness.
Just good memories of that song.
Well, I'm a Beach Boys fan. It's "Don't Worry, Baby" for me. I might surprise you. I love the old school Oak Ridge Boys and the Statler Brothers. So when you were talking about the old school country, I was there too. Back when it was country western. Waylon and Willie and the boys. Well, guys, let's talk about Weapons of God. Jay was talking about, somewhere in the back, you're playing Judas Priest and, all those bands that we love musically. But as a Christ follower, maybe you're kind of hoping, hey, I'd kind of like to find a way that I could serve him through this medium of music that he gifted us with. So, guys, Weapons of God. let's talk about when the band first formed. Guys, when did the band form?
Started the band back in 2011 with some former members. The band actually didn't take off till 2016. Myself and Leon, we did our first show with a couple of former members at the time. We did our first show. Did a couple shows that year, and then things kind of fell apart for a little bit. Members coming and going. It wasn't until 2019 when we finally, well, actually it was 2018. Ed joined the band. I don't know if you're familiar with Four Star Revival. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or
I've
not.
heard of them.
That's where Ed's a former member of
Okay.
Revival. Check him out. He joined the band 2018, and then 2019 we went in the studio to do cut our first CD, which is the self-titled Weapons of God. So so Jay, he's been with us for 2 months now. So that's about where we're at right now at this moment, the band.
Gotcha. Well, Steve, I'm curious. Just, you know, I think I know the answer to this, but for our viewers out there, let's talk about the band name, Weapons of God. Because if you think about it, you know, if you just say it, it rolls right off the tongue. But Weapons of God. So where did you come up with the name, Weapons of God?
Well, like I said, I started the band in 2011, and at the time, the name of the band was called Dreams of Serenity, and the name just never stuck with me. There were just something about the name that just didn't fit. And it was 2013, I started writing the song Weapons of God. I was doing some home recording, and a former member of the band at the time, we were doing home recordings together. And I thought, you know, this would be a really good name for the band. I mean, Weapons of God. I mean, the armor of God, the song's about the armor of God. I mean, and I thought, well, you know, if Iron Maiden could have a song called Iron Maiden, and the Monkees could have the Monkees theme song, what can you know? So that's where the name for the band came about, was just from the song Weapons of God.
Got you. And like, so Ephesians 6:10-20, you know, talking about putting on the full armor. And so Steve, I remember when I was first privileged to meet you there watching Fear Not, and I asked you a question trying to find out about you, because when I found out you were in a band, a musician, and then I mentioned to you, I'm like, well, you know, I with a friend have a little vodcast, and maybe we can hook up sometime. And here we are. So, you know, 4 months later. But I asked you at the time, I was asking you to kind of describe your band to me musically. And you're like, you know, and you did, but you said, I don't really like to, you know, pigeonhole us, and I get it. So let me ask this question in this manner for you guys to answer. For our viewers out there who might be discovering you for the first time, what is the chemistry which makes up your music? What kind of tones and what kind of rhythms and so on and so forth could the listener expect to hear in these albums, in your words?
It's metal.
It's
What'd you
all
say?
metal. I said it's metal. It's all metal.
Heavy, crunching, melodic, some progressive feel in there, some straight up traditional riffing, if you will.
Yeah, you'll hear some Zakk Wylde influences.
There's so many different seasonings going in the soup, which is really nice, because if you all like the same thing, there's no versatility.
Right.
But it really is just a big healthy mix. I mean, I think different people will draw different things out of when they hear the songs. Because I mean, I'm sure you yourself, you know, oh, that sounds like this band, that sounds like that band. You know, everybody's going to draw their own conclusion on it, basically.
I can
Well,
hear some.
I find
Go ahead,
it
Rich.
interesting when I hear people say that we sound like, you know, you guys sound like whatever particular band. Usually it's somebody I'm not familiar with. So I immediately want to go hear that band because I don't know who we sound like. To me, we sound like us. They ask what kind of music do you play. To me, it's metal. I'm not real big into all the subgenres and stuff. It's handy to have them so you can kind of key into people to tell them what kind of music you're talking about. If you're talking about a particular band or whatever, but like Ed said, variety is the spice of life, and I think there's an approach that we'll kind of play whatever. If somebody writes something, we hear it, we like it, we'll play it. And I'm not trying to be pigeonholed into a particular genre or anything else. Definitely chunky guitars, but the thing that makes it easier, I guess, to play the guitars and to do some of the things that we're doing there is because of the rhythm section being solid. And it's like, standing on that rock foundation so that you can move around easily without letting, worrying about the bottom falling out, so to speak. So that's kind of, I think it'll always kind of be bass and drums sort of driven. And then everything else on top of that is gravy. So.
Well, and I know we talked about this song earlier, but for me right now, my favorite song from you guys is the Nights of No Tomorrow. I don't know, that one just really grabs me, and just that song is incredible. You guys knocked that one out of the park.
Yeah, I like that song too. It's up at the top of probably my favorites list as well. So
See, a song like that, Ed presented it to us, him being he's in the classical music and Iron Maiden. And he brought that song to us. We're like, well, let's see what we could do with it, and we made it work. So,
Yeah, I didn't, with that in mind, I forgot to mention that I'm a huge aficionado of classical, especially Mozart, Bach. So with that, it's just a privilege to bring something in. The guys like it. Hey, let's see what we can do with it. We build it up, and lo and behold, we're blessed with another song. So it's really, really cool.
Cool.
Do it again.
Well, I applaud, I could point out Ghost and the etherealness, and that's a slower song, but it's it just has this ethereal quality that is different than some of the other stuff in your catalog. I love the driving, more straight ahead riffage, and I get just a touch of maybe a George Lynch vibe in Are You Ready? The intro lick to that. I love George Lynch, by the way, Dawkins. And then there's bass gallop a la Iron Maiden-esque type of stuff in there. So I applaud the variety that you guys do bring over these two albums. And incidentally, congratulations, because Andrew Rockwell over at Angelic Warlord, I know this scored an 85 with him. And, Andrew's not the end all be all, but I do respect Andrew. And for this to get that grade, Andrew's not an easy A, if you will. And so that's a very good grade over there from Andrew. So congratulations, guys.
Now, is that on a scale of 100?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool write-up. That's another thing too. How cool is it to be reading a write-up of a record that you're involved in writing in a magazine? That was all fresh for me. So I've been playing music for years, but
I'm flattered.
I've never had that before. You guys read that, right?
Yeah, it's just flattering because you said, what's his name, Andrew?
Yeah.
Andrew
And
Rockwell.
he's a hard sell. I mean, he's very critical.
Sure is.
Right.
I think, and I don't want to misspeak, I think that there might have been two albums that have scored a 100% in the history of him grading, and that was Stryper's latest and Saint's latest. Now sometimes I disagree with his scoring. Now I certainly respect Andrew, and that's why I go to his Angelic Warlord site, because I do respect Andrew. But like we were talking, Leon, we all have different musical opinions about things, and so I get it, but he is not an easy A, and for him to, an 85% is a very good grade, is what I'm trying to say on an album.
Oh yeah.
Congratulations.
I was gonna say 85 out of 100. That's definitely respect.
I'll take it.
You bet. Sure is.
I'm good.
The war within me
guys, one of the things I'd like to mention, I'd like to give y'all some more kudos. There is definitely variety, not only musically and within the metal spectrum, but lyrically there is variety. But what I do want to say is that, and no right or wrong here, as you know, we are made in the image of the Creator, and so we are creative. And sometimes we paint with a brush that's got a wider band to it, and we paint more abstract paintings. And then other times we might use a more narrow brush and paint with a little more sharper focus, lyrically speaking. Guys, one of the things that I would like to give you all kudos on, and to me, this is refreshing. You guys, to me, you all have a very biblical focus. I'm not saying Jesus per minutes, pardon the expression, but it's just a biblical focus. And you guys just tell it like it is. And the reason why I find that so refreshing is because in this day and age of these troubled times, I think sometimes people just need to hear the truth and need to hear the good news. And I am grateful that I can, just see and hear the truth in these lyrics. So thank you for that.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may, I would like to quote one of these lyrics that I really love and appreciate. And here's let's see here. This is from the Freshman album. It's Are You Ready? And it says, His name will reign forever. My Father, my Savior, Creator, Deliverer. He is the Master, the Healer, the Author, the Perfecter of our faith. So raise your voices and sing praises to the King of Kings. And guys, to me, that's like, worship at full throttle and full volume. And friends, you'll have to hear the song because it's a driving metal song. But, it's just, like I said, it's not on the bandwagon of modern worship that you might hear in churches. Nothing wrong with that. But this is like a driving metal tune, but it's just, giving praise to the one who gave us the gift. And so that's just a beautiful song, Steve. So
Thank you.
a very interesting lyric here, guys. Heaven can't wait. I'm quoting here. It's not God that sends you to hell. It's only you that sends yourself. Guys, would you mind elaborating on that lyric? I find it quite intriguing.
I actually wrote the lyric. I got the message from an old pastor of mine, and he made that comment in one of the service in his message saying, it's not God who sends you to hell, you send yourself. And when he said that, that stuck to me, and I never heard anybody put it that way. People are so instantly want to blame God for everything that's trouble in their lives. And they don't think for the moment, have you thought about the situation you may be living in, or maybe the wrong people you're hanging around with? People are so simple to blame God, and it's the song. It just reflects on the verses. Are just there's topics in that song that reflect on that. So that's where that whole concept and ideal came from.
Sure.
Well, and I think, Steve, too, just society in general, is always wanting to blame someone else and not take personal responsibility, for your actions or, whatever. And it's actually getting worse, I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to
Yeah,
pass the
Totally
buck.
agree with you.
Pass
Yep.
the buck.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Nobody
if
wants
I may, gentlemen, I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, no, a lot of people just don't want to be accountable for their own actions. And at the end of the day, if we do something stupid or foolish, and we know it's stupid and foolish, we have nobody to blame but ourselves. So,
I think, guys, if you will allow me to reflect a little bit more on this song, Heaven Can't Wait, and that lyric, I remember Gary Hansen from Fear Not, the drummer from Fear Not, we were having a discussion, and he was saying that God is a gentleman. He doesn't force anybody to do anything. He doesn't force people to accept him. And, you know, one of the beautiful things about, you know, your music and the lyrics, you know, I think that anytime, just like in the old school days, I think, was it you, Steve, talking about, you just initially heard of Stryper and Petra, you know, and Petra used to cause me to whip out my Bible and to read, to study what they were saying in the lyrics. Well, I did a little Bible study with Heaven Can't Wait based upon that lyric that you guys brought. And, you know, here's what I kind of came up with. You know, Jesus, the religious people, they were surrounding him and they were coming against Jesus. And in John 8:42 through 47, and Jesus, he said, you belong to your father, the father of lies. And think about this. I mean, Jesus is God in the flesh, right? He is. I mean, Jesus was God in the flesh. And he said, this is God talking to people and saying, you belong to your father, the father of lies. And this is in John 8:42 through 47. And in Revelation 20:10 through 15, it talks about the judgment of the devil and of the damned, those who belong to the father of lies. And it's talking about the lake of fire swallowing up this place prepared for the father of lies. And, you know, in Joel 2:32 and Acts 2:21 and Romans 10:13, it says that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. And in John 3:16, whoever believes in Jesus will not perish, but have everlasting life. And so, you know,
keep reading there. John 3:17 sums it up pretty well too. So in John 3:17, where it goes on to say that he sent not his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him may be saved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the key, and there's a lot of people that miss out on that.
Yes.
Speaking of this song, you know, Steve wrote the song, wrote the lyrics and stuff, but when I started hearing the songs and was trying to get into the band, you know, that was one that stuck with me, and I said, I want to sing with that song. You know, that's it. And for the same reason, you know, the way that lyric is put in there, there's a lot of people, I think, that think that they're trying to be forced into something, or that they say, well, you know, I don't need to be threatened with eternal damnation in order to serve God. You know, it's like you only do it out of fear. You're out of, you know, trying to get out of the bad thing. Really, it's not. I mean, it's about having the hope and the joy and the peace in your everyday life, regardless of what the end result is. And I think when we have that as Christians, we want to share that. You want other people to be able to experience that too. When you see somebody that's down and out and depressed, and you want them to be able to have that hope as well. And it's not about, to me anyways, about standing up somebody's face and saying, you know, you're going to hell, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. You know, as true as it may be, under the circumstances, that's really not a good way usually to draw people in. You're better to show them the love and live like Christ told us to live. And, you know, he said it, the one on the two commandments, love, you know, love your father, love God. And then the second was love your neighbor, love your brother. And all of the commandments hang on these two. So, you know, if you love somebody, you don't cheat them, you don't steal from them, you don't, you know, badmouth them behind their back, you're not coveting their stuff, you're not, you know, disrespecting them. So it's really that simple. If you just love each other, then all this other stuff goes away. But the people that claim to love everybody are also some of the ones that are very quick to say some very nasty things as soon as somebody doesn't agree with their worldview.
Right.
So, you know, you have to kind of guard yourself from that. You know, it's why, you know, it's important to read the word and keep the word, you know, in your soul, in your mind, so that, you know, when the days of evil come, you'll be able to stand firm and stand your ground. You know, that's what it's all about. At least for me anyways. And I think, you know, that I'm sure you guys probably would agree, at least with parts of that. So, but yeah, I really dug the line as well. You know, it's not, God doesn't send you to hell. He doesn't want you to go to hell. He wants you to live in heaven. Heaven's, but, you know, at the same time, the way the song goes on and talks is, heaven's not going to wait forever. You know, there's going to come a time when the good Lord says this is the day and this is the time when you're cut off. So you can't just wait till that 11th hour to jump in. You know, you can have that hope and that peace now in this life right now. And hopefully that message comes across. I know it did to me when I first heard the song, and really, like I said, made me really, I want to sing that. You know, I want to be responsible for that, delivering that lyric and that message to people too. So it's a cool song. Thank you.
Yeah, God gave you free will to choose.
Right.
And the thing is, you know, people that don't know Christ, and you try to talk to them and introduce Christ to them, or get them to come to your church instantly, you're going to have to give up something. But people sometimes think you have to give it up right away, you know, whatever it may be. And it's a progress.
Right.
And I wish people just understood that, you know, you may change overnight. Some people may. I mean, some people, I've seen people all go in and say, I'm done, you know, done what I'm doing. But I just wish people could understand that, you know, it is a progress. And like Leon was saying, to have the hope and the faith of knowing that there's a Savior that loves you, just, you know, it's an amazing feeling.
It's mind blowing. Like Leon's saying, you know, one time there's going to come a day when, you know, God's going to cut it off, and eternity is a very, 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 very long time. And that's just one thing you don't want to gamble with. It's just your salvation is just too precious. That's something you don't want to take for granted. I mean, you want to appreciate it fully.
And, you know, I just consider Christ the Lord in the flesh when he came. He came healing, and he came helping, and he came, you know, doing all these things. And it was some of the people that came against him is why he gave them that warning, you know, but he came drawing all men into himself, and he came loving and healing. And I just get this image of Christ, you know, standing at that door with the doorway to eternity behind him, and he's just ushering people. Come on, I just want to have a relationship with you. Come on. And like you said, Steve, you know, I received the Lord when I was roughly 10 years old, circa 81. I'm still a work in progress, brother. You know,
We all are.
Right
I'm
here.
saved by grace, and I'm still, you know, until perfection comes to get me, I'll never be perfect. So friends, don't you wait, you know. So
God's saying, you know, God's not done with me yet.
that's right. That's right.
Heaven can wait.
Not to say that this can't overlap, but, you know, again, I really appreciate, I love the music. The music's kicking, it's killer. It's metal, as you said, Leon, definitely. I love the lyrical approach, though, to where it's just, you know, it's just honest about things and truthful. Now, was Weapons of God formed or meant as a band simply of like-minded Christ followers who wish to play metal? Or is Weapons of God like a ministry calling placed on your lives within your hearts?
I'd say it's both.
Yeah.
You know, ministry first. The music's gonna, and the lyrics is gonna bring that in the ministry.
That's a good answer. I'd say it's both. You know, it is both.
I concur.
So there's you know, again, that desire to share the hope that we have. You know, years ago, you know, other bands that I was in when I played secular bands, I always kind of slipped my worldview into those bands when I was into them.
I did too. I did that too.
Even though we weren't, you know, playing Christian music in a lot of aspects. You know, it was still a part of my life. And, you know, I hear people talk about some bands that get real political and they're like, oh, I wish I would keep their politics to himself. Well, I mean, if you have something that you're passionate about, like you are about music, I mean, it's natural to want to write about that kind of thing and share those kind of things and share your ideas and feelings or whatever about certain things. So, you know, it's definitely both. I think Steve answered it right.
So guys,
Joe's Pizza.
for any young person out there who may traverse this interview in the future, and if they suspect that they might be called of God to do something, to be in a band, you know, like you're in, that's very upfront, you know, with the Christian lyrics, the approach, how would you convey to them on how to discern if it's the Lord calling them into a band or a ministry within a band? How can you give advice on that, about the calling the Lord's placed on your hearts?
Sure, I mean, they definitely need to pray for discernment, and you know, if this is really what they're called to do, and if their passion's there, I mean, no matter what you do, whether it's music or fixing a car or whatever, I mean, God's going to equip you to do what He wants you to do. So I would say first things first, you know, pray about it, pray hard about it, to make sure you're going down the right path. But the passion's got to be there, though, no matter what you do.
Gotcha.
One fights alone.
As a modern era metal band, bringing that good classic metal, as I call it, but within the modern era, guys, things have changed so much, you know, since some of the bands that we were talking about back in the early days, you know, with downloads and things of that nature. And it's just kind of a different realm, so to speak. Can you guys give advice then, as a modern era metal band, how to keep the rock rolling in this tough climate for music? What were your perspectives upon forming Weapons of God? You know, I'm sure it's got to be tough out there as you're going to glean concerts and you're making music because people are downloading or listening for free, or things just aren't, you know. What was your perspective, and what advice can you give to anybody who is, you know, trying to form a band in this modern era?
Don't do it. No.
Don't do it. That's what I was thinking.
It's a trap. Don't do it.
It's a labor of love, though, isn't it? I mean, you got to love it. And
Yeah, it is.
If they're only in for the money, look out.
Yeah, if you're there for the money, you're in the wrong business.
Because you're gonna be disappointed.
It's funny, when I started the band, I had an idea what I wanted to do at the time, and then when the band started, it fell apart quickly, like 6 months later. So it was myself and a former member at the time. That's when we decided to just, well, you know, let's just do some home recordings and leave it at that. And that was my whole intention, was just to do home recordings, put a CD together, whatever, and just find a way to put it out there and just be done. I had no plans of actually wanting to start a band and look up band members, and you know, God had another plan. So,
well,
as for advice, again, if you're doing it, you think you're going to make something off of it, good luck to you. Me personally, I'm in it just for the love of music, for the love of metal, for the love of Christ. I mean, first and foremost, it's all for Him, and that's you know, I'm sure I'm probably speaking for everybody, but we're doing this all for Him and to reach just, you know, to reach the lost, and if it's just reaching the one, you know, just to share the word of Christ and the message, and that's what it's about to me. That's more important than anything.
And my advice would be that especially if you know, first and foremost, like Ed said, you know, pray. Because,
Yes.
you know, if you're trying to get out and do something that God's not leading you to do, and especially if it's causing you to run from something that God is trying to get you to do, you're going to run into problems. But at the same time, even if you pray and discern that this is the path that you feel God's leading you down, be ready, because there's going to be challenges. The devil's going to throw the stumbling blocks down left and right. We've seen it over and over again. But again, like I said before, you know, if you endure, it'll pay off. I mean, you know, the years and years ago that I wanted to do this kind of thing. Like we were talking about listening to some of those bands back in the day. And once I started to play guitar, and I thought, man, that would be really cool to be able to be in a, you know, Christian, you know, metal, hard rock, whatever kind of band. But you know, the bands that break up don't do anything. You know, you can't do anything that God's leading you to do. You can't take advantage of the opportunities that God puts in front of you if you can't stick it out, stick together. And it's been hard. You know, we've had some struggles, as Steve was saying, you know, with former members. No ill will, and very thankful to all of the things that those guys contributed as part of this. But know that it's going to be tough. And if you're quick to give up, especially if God's calling you to do it, you're going to struggle, because the devil's going to throw everything you can at you to keep you from doing what God wants you to do. You know, the quote, I guess I don't remember exactly who said it, but you know, one of the greatest things the devil ever did was to convince man that he doesn't exist.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and it's not about, he's not trying to get you to worship Satan. He just wants you to not worship God. He wants you to not be aware of God. And if he gets that, yeah, that's all. He's accomplished his goal already. So you have to be willing and ready to go through some struggles. But you know, here I am 30 years later, and it's kind of paying off. It took a minute or two, but we're having a good time with it, and really thankful and feel very blessed to have the opportunity to share music. So.
Guys, let me ask. I meant to ask this earlier. Now, Steve, you were talking about the home recordings, and then, you know, the struggles, and then the course of time. And then, as Leon mentioned, you know, here we are. How did you guys get picked up by Roxx Records, by Roxx Productions? How did that come to fruition?
Rochelle.
There you go.
You wanna? Yeah, come here. You get in 20.
Put Rochelle in the mix there.
We didn't keep around the corner.
Rochelle could give you the whole.
Not over here.
Hey, Rochelle, how did the whole incident happen with so Rochelle, introduce yourself to everybody as you're the manager.
Rochelle McGowan, manager, anything other than playing music. It was actually, it had to be a God thing, because we were at a church and Chaz Bond from Biogenesis was there, and James Riggs, and they hadn't got back together yet, but they were having an acoustic night. And something inside me kept saying I needed to go talk to him. So we did, and Steve and I ended up interviewing them, Biogenesis, Luke Neely, Dan, all of them were there. And in the course of doing that, Luke at the time, he actually is the one that worked on our first CD. And we were just talking, and I'm thinking, you know, he's going through Roxx, Biogenesis was. And I sent an email to Bill, and he said, hey, you know, would you be willing to even listen to us? Because, you know, we're still a garage band. And Bill said, sure. And it just went from there. So it's actually because we met Biogenesis, and then just in conversations with Bill, everything's happened since then.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
If I can ask, guys, do you have any concerts lined up, or you got any plans for 2023 for performing?
Next weekend, we're at Madison Square Garden, opening for Striper.
Nothing less than global domination.
Okay.
No, I think the only thing we got on the board right now is August 12th, which is the Broken Bottle production of Soberfest.
And where is that at, Ed?
It's gonna be,
It's in Logan, Ohio.
that's right, yeah,
Okay.
It's
down south of Lancaster and all that.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be in August, so we're looking forward to that. But right now, I think that's
the Soberfest, the protest, chaotic resemblance, 3 days under, divine martyr, us, I think safe kept, and monarchs to oblivion, I think is in this fest. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
it's gonna be it's gonna
they
be
got a pretty good bill, yeah.
Yeah.
looking forward.
Okay.
And then come April, we'll be doing our, I don't really like to consider them shows, but I don't know if you ever heard of the First Heavy Metal Church of Christ here in Dayton, Ohio. We will be playing there in August starting. We got 4 dates with them this year as well. Other than that, that's all we got going on right now.
Okay.
So if anybody would like to book you guys, they can go to your website then, right, at weaponsofgodmusic.com.
Yes, sir.
Or they can check you out on facebook.com/Weapons of God Band. Are those correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and I will post those links in the description whenever this airs. Now, guys, outside of the shows lined up, what about a new work in progress? You gave us your eponymous first album in 2019, and that's available at your website. And then The War Within Us in 2021. What about works in progress, guys? Anything going on there?
Well, we're still trying to get Jay caught up here with the music. So there are ideas floating around. We would like to get back in the studio sometime this year. That's what we'll drive for. So when, I don't know, but
When it's ready.
yeah, when it's ready. So
Got you.
Looking forward to writing and really get back into writing. Like you said, Jay hasn't been with us for very long. He's still learning material so that when we do have shows come up, we can cover those shows. But I think all of us, and I would say probably Jay too, is looking forward to actually writing some stuff together again, and just keep on pushing that creativity out there, and hopefully some people enjoy it. Get to hear it, enjoy it. So it's hopefully this year, like Steve said, we'll see.
Cool. Now, Jay, I did have a note in here. Jason Harmon was the bassist for Souls Awaken, and he filled in for the summer 2022 dates with Weapons of God. And then, Jay, you came into the fold. How long have you been with the band, and how did you come into the fold with Weapons of God?
So a few months back, I contacted these guys, and because I knew what they were doing, I knew what they were about, and I was digging the music, and I'm like, well, here we go. Here's something I've been looking for a million years or whatever. And so I contacted them, and they luckily they gave me a shot, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, come up, and we'll get you in here and we'll try you out, all that jazz, and I had talked to multiple times. I had talked to Steve and I had talked to Rochelle on the phone and text message, you know, what have you. And I felt like we could get along, and I felt like it was, you know, going to go well, I guess you could say. And came up here and tried out. You know, I think we kind of clicked, and everybody's kind of like-minded. You know, everybody likes a variety of different things, but we're still all metal at heart, you know, even though we all like all these different things. I think that's what makes it great, because I like variety as well, just as much as these guys do. But I knew that Jason was filling in. I knew all about that, and a great guy, by the way. Just a great human being. I had the pleasure of meeting him. When they decided that, you know, hey, I'm the guy for the gig. They had a gig coming up within just a few weeks of me joining the band at the Metal Church in Dayton, and they were, you know, we were working on a few songs to get us through, you know, just to get covered for that gig particular, and we managed to do that. And Jason was still, you know, kind of like back there on the back burner. And, you know, he told these guys, hey, you know, if something falls through or whatever, I'll be there for you. And luckily, I was able to, you know, pick it up and get with the program. And they were like, yeah, you know, yeah, dude, you're doing this gig with us, and everything's going to be cool. And I did. And just so happened, Jason came to that gig. And so I got to meet him, and I have a lot of respect for that guy, and I know these guys do as well. So check him out, check his band out. Some more great musicians, more great people, you know, giving it all to Christ, doing what they love.
Very cool. And that was Jason Harmon with Souls Awaken. Now, Jay, if I was a betting man, I bet you the song that got you in during those Weapons of God tryouts was whenever y'all got together and performed Kokomo. Am I right?
How'd you know?
Yeah.
It's gonna be on the next album. We weren't gonna tell anybody.
Well, we weren't going to tell anybody at all, but we've already decided that the next album is going to sound exactly like old Beach Boys.
Good Vibrations by Weapons of God. First of all, thank you so much for the great music with the great message, and thank you for your time today. We appreciate you guys, and going around the horn, if you guys could make a brief statement to leave a lasting impression with your fans out there and with the viewers, with your audience, what would you wish to tell them?
Stay the path. When you get discouraged, stay the path. You know, not everybody likes the same kind of music and stuff, but you know, I've known some people who have gotten discouraged and turned away from God, only to realize, you know, later the error, I guess, of their ways, and to come back and you know, have that whole mental rush of kind of the whole "what was I thinking" attitude. It's worth it, you know. Stick to it. In the end, it's worth it.
All right.
That's all I got.
Anybody else?
I would just say, stay the course. Don't listen to the lies of the enemy. Pray hard. Stand firm, stand steadfast. God's got your back no matter what don't rely, like the word says, don't rely on your own understanding. Just stay the course, keep faithful, keep confident, and God will never leave you or forsake you.
You know, we live in a dying, hurt world right now, and there's a lot of people that are just hurt, and just lost and don't even know Christ. Telling you, there is hope in Him if you just seek Him. If God could come into my life and change who I become from where I was, He could do the same for you. And if you don't have somebody that you could reach out to, by all means, reach out to us, email us. We'll be glad to talk to you. We'd be glad to pray for you. You guys as well. If somebody's watching this message, I mean, by all means, there is hope. He can make a difference in your life. You just gotta have this relationship with Him, and He'll do amazing things for you. All He wants is a relationship with you. All He wants is your heart.
Ditto what everybody else said. Kind of reading my mind, all these guys. I'd have to agree with all three of these guys, but just the same, I would say don't judge. Love your neighbor. Don't judge your neighbor. Don't hate your neighbor. If you're, God knows I have. If you're having one of those days, instead of blaming God, instead of hating the world, just you got to stop yourself. Walk away for 5 minutes. Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. Count to 10. Drink some water. Say a little prayer. I guarantee you, your day will be better from there on. And I think that's a huge problem in the world right now. Is nobody is there's. I wouldn't say nobody, but maybe there's a lot of people that's, they're just assuming and they're judging. And I would say to everyone, just stop, walk away and do those things. And I think there would be, if everybody did that, I think there would be more peace on this earth. And God knows that. I think that's my biggest wish is world peace. I just wish, we could all just see nothing but love, get along. That's my biggest thing. And before you can have peace on this earth, I mean, it literally has to start with you first. And so you got to bring peace onto yourself and into yourself before peace can be spread out throughout the rest of the world. So that's what I would tell anyone and everyone. Don't be quick. Don't be too quick to hate or judge. Just stop and go take a break. And talk to the Lord. And I honestly, truly believe that your day will be better.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's kind of a frenetic world, isn't it? Fast paced and frenetic, and Lord tells us to be still and know that he's God, you know, and guys, just want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for blessing us with the great music. And, you know, I appreciate the message and the music that you guys are bringing. Thank you for bringing it. And Rex is going to share a verse. We call it messages from home, you know, a word from the Lord, from the word. And Rex is going to bring us a message from home. But before you guys leave, please stick around for one more minute. Okay. So, Rex, what you got, buddy?
Well, you know, and I love the band name. And so I was like trying to think of a scripture that kind of would go along with that. And you guys actually have several scriptures on your band website, which I think is awesome. And this one is on there. It's Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17. And it says, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord." So that's, I think, goes well with your band name, and just as a good promise from the Lord also.
Guys, I hope to see and hear more from you in the not too distant future. Great albums right here, friends. Check them out at weaponsofgodmusic.com, and Weapons of God is on Facebook, facebook.com/Weapons of God Band, and the links to those descriptions. Am I saying that right, Rex? I'll post the links below in the description.
You are.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for blessing us.
Thank you.
Friends, we'll see you later, okay?
Bye.
Everybody take care.
Thank you.
With every devotion, we will defeat the ways of the